Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Bryce Bicklin. I am the Chief Distribution Officer for North American Annuities. And before we kick off this meeting, there's just a couple quick items that I was hoping I could cover. Well, first, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your business. Thank you for your partnership with us. On behalf of everybody here at North American on both the life and the annuity division, we very much appreciate it. Second, North American is having a great year so far, and it is just getting better. We recently announced a rate improvement on the annuity side, and I don't think the timing could have been any better. You know, when you look at the landscape of how things are opening up, you hear more and more. I'm talking to some of our top producers, and you're hearing more and more about client activities are picking up. They're having more face-to-face appointments. They're having more client meetings. They're having more events when that makes sense. But they're also able to figure out a lot and use a lot of what we've learned in this past year and a half to blend some of the face-to-face stuff that they always did, the newest tried and true that always worked, and blend it with a lot of the digital, some of the social marketing, whether it's a Zoom meeting such as this, or what we have with our expert today. It fits very well into our topic about just website and utilization on some of that. So, you know, the question that we ask with that is, how good is your website? Now, I know we could ask Ryan and he could look at them all and he could tell us how good our websites are. But I think some of the things that we want to do today is help you be able to ask that question of yourself and take a look at what you have and really identify where there's some opportunities. And honestly, in a lot of quick cases, some quick hit opportunities, some small adjustments that you can make that have a huge impact. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. So with that, I really want to welcome Ryan Weldon. Ryan joined Blue Compass, that team in June of 2017 as an account executive, quickly moved into a communication and education strategist on a daily basis. What he does in his day job, I guess, is he works with a range of clients, ranging anywhere from small businesses like many of you to large corporations like us that develop your strategic digital solutions, kind of helping you overcome those individual unique challenges that you face with your own business. So now when Ryan's not at work, he loves to spend time with his wife of, I think, 16 years. He has 4 kids, 9 to 1. So we know that he's not only busy at work, but he's also very busy outside of work. Now, before I turn it over, I want to let everybody know just a couple quick housekeeping things. We think we should have some time at the end for some Q&A. And so if you look at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A section. There's both a chat and a Q&A section. Make sure you use the Q&A section to ask questions. I'll moderate that at the end. So where he's done with his formal presentation, I'll rejoin, and then some of those questions that came in, if we can make them fit, and if there's time, I'll ask some of those questions. The other thing I want to make sure is there's going to be a survey, so we'll send you a survey at the completion. Please take the time to fill that survey out. That's unbelievably helpful for us because it helps us identify, did you find benefit? What did you want to know more about? And maybe what you want to know more about in future types of webinars. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Ryan and turn it over to him. Ryan, take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bryce. It's a privilege to be here with all of you, and I'm excited to share what we at Blue Compass believe to be valuable information that you can implement in your business today. So just so you're all aware from the beginning, you can visit this page to see a few of the items we'll be discussing, as well as a few more resources for a deeper dive into our topic today if you want to do some further learning. We'll keep it live for a couple weeks, so make sure to grab it while it's fresh in your mind. And you've probably seen this before, but just as a reminder, websites and social media are considered advertising and are subject to model regulations as well as company guidelines. Any website should be submitted to the advertising review department for review. Have any of you ever sat down at a restaurant, bar, or someone's house and noticed a bowl of mixed nuts or something that's obviously there for anyone to enjoy? Well, I had that experience recently. I was visiting my grandmother actually. And I got there, and she went off in the other room. I was in the living room, sat down on the couch, and right there on the coffee table was this bowl of peanuts just waiting there to be eaten. And I was hungry. And so I went in thinking I'd just maybe have a couple, but before I knew it, that bowl was empty. And Grandma came back in, and I said, "Oh man, I'm so sorry, Grandma. I ate all of your peanuts. I was just so hungry." And she said, "Oh, that's okay, Ryan. Don't worry about it. I just like to suck the chocolate off them anyway." Man, that was kind of gross. But the point of that story is we can all look at the same thing and derive a different value from it. And your product or service is no different. You want to find the people in the marketplace who value your product or service in the same way that you do. And as it relates to your website, you want them to find you. In order for that to happen, let's talk about your website audience. Now, obviously, we have the people who you are currently doing business with, who may have the opportunity who you may have the opportunity to cross-sell to, or who may generate referrals for your business, as well as the people who aren't doing business with you. And I think we all know who those people are. But one audience segment that you may be surprised to see here are bots. Now, every search engine has crawlers constantly reading websites and indexing or storing that information on their servers so that when someone searches for something, that search engine can show the most relevant results. Now, we focus on Google specifically because people use them the most, and all those other search engines follow Google's best practices. So when a bot is reading your website, they will encounter errors. These are things that are missing or broken on your website. For example, when you display an image on your site, maybe it's a picture of a team member, Google wants you to have an image title and description. If you don't have that, Google counts that as an error. Or if you've deleted a page from your site, but you didn't indicate to Google what page replaced it or where people should go instead if they click on that link, that's also an error. So what do errors have to do with anything? Well, Google has a crawl budget assigned to your website, which basically means the bot can only spend so much time reading your site. If the bot encounters too many errors, it will stop reading your site. Why is that important? Well, the bot can only store information it reads, and people searching on Google can only find the information that Google stores. So if the bot isn't able to read your entire site, that means there's information on your site that isn't stored, and it's not eligible for people to find in the search results. So the moral of the story is, it's important to consider whether your website is set up in a way that makes it easy for bots to read, as well as the people searching. Now, let's talk about real people, how to get them to your site, and how to lead them to the action you want them to take when they get to your website. Now, in your current strategy, are you prospecting for anyone and everyone, or are you very specific with who you want to talk to? When it comes to digital, we found that identifying and catering to a specific target audience is the most effective way to ensure you're talking to the most qualified leads who have a higher probability of converting to a paying client. We found that businesses tend to focus most on developing their actual product or service. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter what you're selling. More so, it matters who you're selling to. If your target audience is clearly defined and you know it well, they most likely buy your product and service because they'll see the value of what you're offering. And if you've done your research, your product is something your audience will want, something they're willing to pay for, and something that will help solve their problems. Now, it is true that general targeting can lead to high volumes of leads and lots of conversations. But is that the goal? In my estimation, the goal is converting leads to clients. Would you rather take 10 leads to get one conversion, or would you rather it take 3 leads to get to 1 conversion? Your time is too valuable to waste on people who have a low success rate. we recommend focusing on the people who are most likely to buy. So here's some questions to get you started on developing your target audience or simply refining it. Starting at the top here, every target audience has a problem, and every product, business, or service seeks to offer a solution to that problem. Identifying the problem can help determine the messaging of your website content and how you frame the conversation with your potential clients. Demographics and psychographics will help you know who to look for and where to find them. This can be very helpful when advertising or writing website copy that will appeal to the types of people you want to talk to. Now, there's a very fine line between annoying your target audience and appealing to them in a way they'll appreciate. Gaining a better picture of who your audience is and what they like will help ensure success. So look at where your target audience spends their time, online and in the physical marketplace. For example, a younger audience will be more likely to hang out on Instagram. An older audience will be more likely to hang out on Facebook. More business savvy audiences are more likely to hang out on Twitter or LinkedIn. If your demographic is homeowners who like DIY projects, you can probably find them shopping at Home Depot on the weekends or attending a local event showcasing new homes. Additionally, brands similar to yours might have strong social media presences influencing how consumers purchase from them. If your target audience is actively engaging with your competitors on these platforms, you might want to try a similar approach. So now that we've talked about who your target audience is, we need to find out how they're looking for your industry, products, or services. We accomplish that through performing keyword research. When you break down all digital marketing strategies, you'll find keyword research as a foundational first step. Keyword research is how we listen to what our audience is saying and how they're searching for our product or service so we don't fall out of touch with them. With roughly 90% of consumers using the internet to find a local business, it's important to stay in touch and make sure that they're finding you. Now, the word keyword can be a little misleading because it implies that a keyword is just maybe one or two words. A keyword can actually refer to one word or a complete sentence. There are two types of keywords: short tail, which is one or two keywords, or long tail, which is multiple words. For example, you can search for restaurant, or you can search for Irish pub near me with a patio. Sounds more fun, right? Both are keywords. The first is a short tail keyword. The second is a long tail keyword. One will give you very general results. The other will give you more specific results, which will automatically lead to more qualified people to your website. These keywords are what you will use as a foundational tool throughout your website to be sure search engines show your website when people are searching for those topics or phrases. It's also important to make sure that your keywords match the intent of the person using them in the search bar. For example, we have a client that's a bank, and they wanted to post a blog about debit card chips versus having a debit card that has a stripe or a swipe strip. And so the blog that they posted was titled Chip or Strip. Seems harmless, seems relevant. Well, what they found was that they were getting a lot of people to the site, but they weren't getting a lot of conversions, and a lot of people were hitting the site and then leaving the site very quickly. So they asked us to kind of look into that. And so what we found is that chip or strip is actually a YouTube phenomenon that was happening at the time, where people would take videos and they would blindfold others and they would give them a chip. Now, the person blindfolded needed to guess what flavor that chip was, or they had to remove an article of clothing. Not really a game that the bank wanted to be associated with, but they were, because the keywords they used did not match the user intent. So they were getting a lot of people looking for that game on their blog, and that's not what they were looking for. So just like it's really important to define your target audience, you also want to get really specific with the keywords you use on your website. Really think about the target audience and how they talk about your product or service, not how you talk about it. We need to get rid of industry jargon and think like your customer. The more specific you can be with your keywords, the more valuable the traffic will be that comes to your website. Admittedly, this process can sound daunting, but it doesn't have to be. There are some easy and free research tools you can use to help. Now, the best way to think like your clients is to talk to them and find out how they talk or research about the topics surrounding your product or service. You may find out that your word for something might be completely different than theirs. It would be like trying to sell pop in a place where they refer to every soft drink as Coke. You're not going to connect. You can also do some basic research on your own. Pretend for a minute you don't know anything about your industry and go to Google. Google can be very informative. Now, and don't just search on your laptop. We recommend that you also do a lot of research on your phone because that's where most people are searching from. On a kind of a side note here, did you know that Google stores information based on the desktop version of your website and the mobile version of your website? In fact, at this point, they're prioritizing the mobile version. So as a quick tip, if your website isn't responsive, meaning if it looks different when you're on your phone than it does when you're on your computer, it's time to make that happen. Otherwise, at some point here, Google may never show your website in search results because they're moving towards only going towards what they call the mobile first index. Now there's some tools, and I'll show you those next, that can be really helpful. But we also want to look at other people in your industry and your competitors. Is there a gap that nobody is filling? Is there a way that you can talk about your product or service that's different and unique than the others? We are always looking for ways to differentiate, especially in an industry where there's a lot of people in the market, like banks, real estate agents, or financial advisors. Remember, the more specific you can get, the better. So the first tool that we're going to highlight here is called Ubersuggest. So this tool specializes in generating new keyword ideas, and it allows you to get insight into the strategies that are working for others in your market so that you can adopt them, improve them, and gain an edge. So across the top, we have search volume, which that's just the amount of people searching for that keyword, and usually goes on an average month. And then we have SEO difficulty, which is telling you how difficult it's going to be to rank within Google search results. We have paid difficulty, which is telling you how difficult it is to do well with a paid advertisement using that keyword. Cost per click, that's an estimated cost for you if you're going to pay for ads for that keyword. That's how much you're going to have to pay each time somebody clicks on your ad to go to your website, and it's estimated. Those can fluctuate a lot depending upon the season. And then in the results area below, we have the keyword as well as, so that's the keyword that we searched for, gardening, as well as it has other keywords below it that they're suggesting that relates to the keyword that we're searching for. So those are related keywords. And then it also has the trend of volume over the year. So that's that little graph. You kind of see the bars go up and down. That's over the course of the year, the different types of volume for that keyword, how they fluctuate. This can be very helpful. The average volume of searches for that keyword, which we saw up top. And then two other repeated categories. PD stands for that paid difficulty, which is how difficult it would be to compete for ad space. And then SD stands for SEO difficulty, which measures the competitiveness for ranking in the Google search results. Next, we have Google Trends. Google Trends is basically an unbiased sample of Google search data. It can be used for comparative keyword research and to discover that those event-triggered spikes in keyword search volume. So then you can kind of see when that word is most searched for and when it's not really searched for at all. And then Google Trends provides keyword-related data, including search volume, index, and geographical information about the search engine users. Be super helpful. This next isn't actually a tool. It's a part of the search engine results page, and you've probably seen this before when you've done searches on other things for yourself. It's called People Also Ask. It shows questions that other people have asked, other searchers have asked, that are relative to your search. The other cool thing is it's dynamic. So as you click the arrow to see the answer to the question, more questions are populated below. So this can be a really helpful tool when you want to get some keywords on your website for a particular topic. You can also see how these other people who are probably interested in the same thing that you're researching, you can see what other things that they're interested in, and it might spark maybe even a piece of content like a blog post or just a paragraph on your homepage that would be valuable because people are obviously searching for it too. So that's a great tool to use, and that's right in the Google search results page. Another one that's in the Google search results pages is the FAQ section. I think we know what that stands for, frequently asked questions. So the difference between frequently asked questions and the people also ask is that the frequently asked questions are generated based on website content, not based on other users that are searching for related questions. And so basically Google is taking your search and it found a website that has some other questions that are related to your search, and it's displaying those questions based on what's on that other website. So it's still great information. It's other related topics that you can use to generate content. And then the last tool that we'll show you here, admittedly can look a little intimidating, but it is called Answer the Public. This tool is really cool because it listens to the autocomplete data from search engines. So do you know when you go in and you type in a search, and as you're typing the word, kind of that drop down box drops below and it shows you how Google could complete your search. So this Answer the Public tool is listening to that data. And so it's actually showing you some very useful phrases and questions that people are asking surrounding your keyword. So it's a goldmine of consumer insight that you can use to create fresh, useful content for your products or services. So now that we've talked about identifying your target audience and the words you should use to reach them, it's important to spend some time understanding the various types of traffic sources before we can effectively increase web traffic. Now, each one of these traffic sources indicates different types of users and behaviors. So depending upon your needs and your audience, some sources may represent a better fit for your prospects than others. So kind of use the grocery store model here, take what you need, but we're going to go through them all. So the 4 main types that we're going to talk about, and we'll also discuss ways to increase each type of traffic, is direct traffic, search engine traffic, referral traffic, and social traffic. So the first one is direct traffic. Now, direct traffic is those users who know your website address and are just typing it into the address bar. These are typically people who have been to your website before. They were told your website address and remembered it, or they have a business card or a brochure that they're looking at, and that has your website on it, and they simply just type it in. This is typically a low source of traffic, as most people don't just type in your web address usually. I'm even that same way. I know web addresses, but sometimes I'll just Google it just because it's easier to click. So some ways that you can increase direct traffic is, first of all, to have an easy website URL or easy web address. Is your website name difficult to remember? This can be important, especially if your business name matches maybe your last name. Last names can be a little difficult to spell sometimes, and even more difficult to say. So sometimes it's not great to use your last name as a web address, but we understand it's hard to find one that's unique out there, especially when we recommend using a .com whenever possible. There's a lot of other ends of websites. You have .info, .net, .store, lots of other things out there that you can use, and sometimes those are appropriate. But we recommending, if you can find an easy website URL and use .com, definitely do that. It will help your direct traffic really, really a lot. So the next thing is to display your URL. Basically, show it. Where? Everywhere. So you can do it on all of your digital properties. Show your website, link to your website. But also, we recommend, if you're producing any traditional media, that you put your URL wherever it makes sense, wherever possible. So your business cards, if you have any promotional media, if you have any sell sheets, anything like that. If there's a spot that you can put your website on there, do it. That'll help your direct traffic. And then the last thing here is improving other sources of traffic. When you improve search engine, referral, and social traffic, which we're going to talk about here, your direct traffic will automatically increase. Why? Because you're more visible. Simple as that. So that's the last way that we would put on that particular source of traffic. The next one here is search traffic. Regardless of what search engine users come from, their click to your website either costs you money or it doesn't. If you're running ads, the traffic is paid traffic, paid search engine traffic. If your users find you just by searching, that's free, or what we call organic traffic. The best ways that we've found to increase this search traffic is, and we talked about a little bit before, is maintain your website. Maintaining your website is so important, and this is basically getting rid or reducing those errors that we talked about. Now, no website is perfect. In perfection, while it's a good goal, it's mostly unattainable. Even bluecompass.com has errors, and typically we have errors. If there's a website that's perfect, it probably lasts for a day or two and then something happens and it's not anymore. So we never say the goal is to eliminate errors. We just say to reduce errors. And this is a consistent effort that you have to do over the long haul. This is not something that you can do as a quick hit. It's something you have to commit to. So maintaining your website and reducing those errors is going to allow Google to read your website clearly, which means that it will prioritize your website in search results over those other websites that are not being maintained. The next thing is to develop a keyword research strategy. Basically, asking the question, how does your target audience search for your product or service? And we've talked about this already so far. This is a little bit different because a strategy is going to talk through your different pages of your website. And we recommend going through those pages and looking at and defining what keywords you want to use for each page. So for example, your homepage keyword list is going to be a little bit different than your About Us page keyword list, which is also going to be different from a service line page keyword list. The important thing is that you maximize your use of keywords by defining what keywords you can use on each page relevant to the content that exists on that page. And the best way to do this is just write it down, get a strategy together, and just chunk away at it one page at a time. Last thing here is create relevant content. Keyword here is relevant. We really promote creating content that is something your audience is going to be interested in right now. And this could be a blog. You could do this through your website on your About Us page, Our Teams page, service line pages. Content can be a video. Content can be a social media post, an infographic, anything like that. Whatever you do when you create content, make it relevant. That's super important, because if people come to your website and they don't find your information relevant, they're going to leave really quickly. And that's one of those indicators that Google looks at. And so you want to keep people on your website when they find the content that they want to read. The next source of traffic is referral traffic. So if a link to your website exists anywhere on anyone else's website across the internet, and somebody clicks on it, they're considered referral traffic. Examples of referral traffic are guest blogs, like if your blog is featured on somebody else's page and it links back to your website. Partner or sponsor, media coverage like a news outlet or something like that. Online reviews, an email newsletter. These are all examples of referral traffic. Some really great ways to increase referral traffic is, again, create quality content. And we use quality and relevant kind of interchangeably. If your content's relevant, we think it's probably good quality content. But also quality content is content that uses those keywords and speaks to your audience, and is structured in a way that also makes it easy for Google to read that as well. So you want people to find your content on your website worth sharing. That's important. The next thing is to create strategic partnerships. There are other people that are related to your industry. They don't do the same thing, but they're related to your business. In fact, they are a place that your target audience also does business with. You want to create those strategic partnerships so that you can both include content on each other's pages so that you can share each other's content. This will help you not only in the eyes of Google, because Google, when you show that your content is valuable and somebody else decides to link to it from another web page, that's another indicator that Google sees and that your website is valuable. And so it can help you with create more visibility through Google. It can also help create more visibility with your target audience that's not coming directly from you, which is really valuable. The last thing that we can do is to build our newsletter list. I don't know if, how many people have a newsletter that are listening, but newsletters are typically really great because the people that are receiving your newsletter are usually your super users. These are the people that love you the most because they want to hear from you. And you want to stay in front of them because when they finally get to that point where they're ready to do business with you or somebody in your industry, you want your business, your name to pop in their head. And you do that by staying in front of them. And so you can build a newsletter list by using landing pages, forms, email automations, anything like that. Basically, any place that you can collect somebody's email address is a great way to build your newsletter list. Newsletters have been attributed to a lot of valuable ways to drive business. It sounds like an old way to do it, but they're still relevant and still very valuable. The next is social traffic. And I think we can all understand what social traffic means. It's pretty self-explanatory. Anyone who gets to your website by clicking on a link from social media is considered social traffic. Kind of a side note, every year we do a social media survey for people in our state, which is Iowa. And you may be surprised to find out that Facebook is still the reigning champion as far as most used social media platforms. And you may be surprised to find that out because if you ask somebody if they use Facebook, especially somebody that's younger, they'll say no. But in fact, they do. They're just a closet user and they don't want you to know it. And that's typically why the perception is what it is. But 80% of people use Facebook. So how can you increase your social media traffic? First thing is you can do is increase your followers on your profiles. And how do you do that? Well, interacting with your followers is a really great way to keep them engaged with your brand. It also is a factor when it comes to the social media algorithms. the algorithms, or this is how social media determines what to show on people's newsfeed, or what they're basically doing is saying we want to show posts and pages in users' news feeds based on how often those users interact with that page or that profile. So if you're interacting with your followers and they're interacting back, that's a really great indicator to the social media algorithms that they need to continue putting your posts or your page in front of those people. The next thing that we want to do is implement a social media strategy. I think there's a saying out there that if it's not important, it doesn't get done. If there's not a plan, you're not going to do it. This is kind of that same thing as a keyword research strategy. This is basically we recommend about a month ahead and planning your posts, when they're going to go out, what day, what they're going to say, what kind of image you're going to use, or video or content that you're going to be promoting, and outlining it. And even depending upon the social media tool, you can even go schedule it so that you don't even have to touch it again. And so we really recommend that. Now, that can sound like a big lift, a heavy lift, but we recommend, if you're not doing it right now, try starting with 2 posts a week. That can be a really great start, and then you can start testing the different types of content that people are going to interact with the most. And the last thing is to focus on your audience. We use the 70-20-10 rule. 70% of your posts on social media should be relevant to your audience, coming from you, and it's not salesy. You're not asking them for anything. You're just giving them something that's valuable. 20% should be posts from people, other websites or other businesses that are related to yours. And so that basically you're saying, hey, listen, there's some other relevant content. It's valuable. Here it is. People are going to find that useful. And then 10% of the time, you can be salesy. 10% of the time, you can ask for their business, ask for the sale, close it. But you're never going to get that 90. You're never going to get that 10% to be effective if you don't do the other 90%, because people are just going to tune out your page if you're always trying to sell them something. They want to interact with people that are providing relevant, quality information that they can count on to be the experts for that topic. So up until now, we've talked about how to get more traffic to your website. And now we're going to talk about how to make sure the users who land on your website complete the actions you want them to complete. So to be most effective, your website should serve a purpose. What do you want people to do when they come to your website? Here's a quick test to see if your website is simple and easy to understand. Get someone who's never seen your website before, show it to them for 10 seconds, then close the page. That sounds scary, but ask them, what's the goal of my website, and what would your logical next step be? Again, a little intimidating, but really valuable and really a great way to determine if your website is doing what you think it should be doing. So keeping that goal and desired action in mind, there are also some key essential qualities of your homepage that will increase your conversions. Many websites are just too cluttered, very difficult to follow, which confuses the user and paralyzes their ability to make a decision, or they simply just get lost trying to navigate the website, and they never end up finding the information they came looking for. So try to keep things simple, and don't be afraid to spread your content around your website. You don't have to stuff and clutter all of it onto your homepage. I know it's tempting to want to get every last piece of information across to visitors, but if they feel overwhelmed, they'll leave. The main navigation should be clear. The ways to contact you should be obvious. You see, we have those in the main navigation, which stays at the top of every page as the user scrolls. And your website needs to be viewable on all devices. We talked about this a little bit before, but make sure that your website is easily navigated regardless of what somebody's looking at it on. Phone, tablet, desktop, huge screen. Really important to make sure that that's in there. And then also your social links and location information should also be clear and visible. We recommend putting them in the footer or the bottom of the website as a great place, because people are used to seeing that information there on other websites, but it's also information that'll be on every page because it's in the footer. And the footer stays the same typically, no matter where you go. It's also important to have a clear call to action button where people can easily and quickly take the action that you want them to take. Sometimes they don't want to do that right away. So also include areas where you can tell them what you do, tell people what sets you apart. Many businesses make the mistake of thinking the homepage is their opportunity to tell their entire story of their business and walk through their entire sales pitch. While it's important to share a little information about what you do and what sets you apart, remember, this page is meant to get the user to the next step. What you share about you and your business should also serve that purpose. The key is to be specific. And if you want to share all the other stuff, do it on the About Us page. It's a great place to be vulnerable and do that. Don't hold back. The last thing here is testimonials. Testimonials are big. People want to hear from others about their experience with your business. 91% of consumers say that positive reviews make them more likely to use a business. And 76% of consumers trust online reviews as much as recommendations from family and friends. And make sure that if you're using testimonials, a great thing to do is to include testimonials from different perspectives, so that the different types of users that land on your website can see and hear language that they're used to using as well, that's familiar with their perspective. So in closing, I hope that this information has been valuable for you and your business. And at this time, we're going to take any questions you have. Bryce, did anybody submit questions?
We do. We got a few questions out here, so I'll just kind of run through a couple of them and see if those lead to additional questions or just if we even have enough time, I guess. So
sure.
The question comes from early on. You were talking about Uberpublic, and the question was, how do I put my company name or keywords in Uberpublic to see the ratings?
So that's not necessarily what that tool is used for. There are some tools that you can use that are paid tools if you want to see how your business ranks and things like that. One place that you can go that can be a little bit helpful to find out how people are getting to your website that is free is called Google Search Console. And you may have to connect it with your analytics. If you have a question about that, feel free. I'll go to the next slide. Feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help however we can, but Google Search Console will show you what keywords people are using to get to your website. I don't know if that answers the intent of that question, but in order to find those types of things, typically you have to use a paid tool like SEMrush, something like that.
Okay. So another gentleman said he works a lot on optimizing, but he struggles because he's in a shared office and Google won't validate that as there's no directory. Is there a workaround?
Oh, yeah, that can be tough, especially in the financial industry because there's so many regulations. So if you have the ability to set up a separate page or a separate website that's more focused on you and why people should do business with you, that would be a great option. Otherwise, if you have the ability to differentiate your page on social media from your office's page, that would be a great way to do that. Social media platforms can be used as kind of that front page for you. The key is that whatever you're able to do, really focus on that differentiation and how you're different than the other people sitting in the same office as you, because sometimes I'm sure that you can get lost in the midst of it all. So if you're able to set up an individual website presence and start driving people there instead of driving people to your office website, that could be a way to, that'd be a good way. We actually had same conversation with National Guard recruiters because they're all in the same office too. And so it's difficult to differentiate yourself when you're all using the same website and the same Facebook or page or whatever. So if you can create that individual's digital presence, that would be a great way to go about that. So to send people directly to you rather than to the group business.
Okay. Question, who do you recommend as a website provider for building it yourself? This specific question was currently using Squarespace and wondering if what your thoughts are of that on.
It's going to depend on your familiarity and ability to use these tools. Squarespace is a really easy platform to use. If you're familiar with it, it can be really effective. Sometimes with these services like that, those errors and things like that, they have sections where you can update things and add, these really search specific items, but sometimes they can be buried. So I'm just looking at that tool for those. They'll probably call it SEO tools. They might actually have a plugin or something if it's a WordPress site. But Squarespace is good. WordPress is good. Obviously, we have our own CMS, so I'm a little biased. Our CMS is specifically geared towards this search engine, being search engine friendly. But also HubSpot is a tool that we've seen in the past and connected with other people's websites, and that can be a great tool as well.
All right, so I got a couple questions coming in, and I think I'll combine them because I think they're kind of around the same thing. But you tell me, you're the expert. So the question is how often should we update our website, and then that goes along with how often do search engines like Google rescan our site? So I kind of think they're not the same, but they're kind of related.
Yeah, no, I think they're definitely related. The question about how often does Google scan your website is whenever they want. It's typically not very often. So I mentioned Google Search Console. It's more of a technical tool, but I really recommend just getting in there because you can actually tell Google that you've made an update within Search Console, and then that'll put your website higher on the priority list. They might not scan it right away, but they'll definitely scan it sooner than they would have if you didn't tell them. And we obviously recommend updating your website as much as you can, staying relevant and timely. But if you're busy, maybe you're a one-person office, you don't have any staff to help you out, like just set a goal for maybe once a month. Update something, change something on your About Us page, on your home page, add a new blog, anything like that. Just set a goal maybe once a month, and if that's doable for you and you're like, hey, I think I could do two times a month, increase it to 2 and see where that takes you.
So question about the homepage came in. So can you talk about best practices on a homepage, pictures, video? What's the best thing to do there?
Yeah. When it comes to pictures and video, obviously, yes, those are great things to do. It really depends on your target audience and what they're going to connect with and how you're able to convey those things that are valuable to them on your website. So yes, pictures are great. Videos are shown to be really effective. One thing that we've seen people make the mistake of, though, is sacrificing design for speed. Your website speed is critical. People will not stick around to wait for your website to load. So if you have really big images or really large file videos, it's going to have a negative effect regardless of how cool or awesome they are. So we recommend that your images be less than 100 kilobytes. They'll load lightning fast then. And if you're going to do a video, instead of uploading it to your website content management system, do an embed from YouTube or Vimeo, because then you're not having to wait for the whole file to load when somebody comes to your website. It'll load faster because it's coming from those video servers, and they're obviously built for that. So that would be our recommendation. But yes, design, videos, pictures, do it, but don't sacrifice that for site speed. You want your site to load quick.
So when it comes to leads in insurance, will a website work better than ClickFunnels tool that is specific to a message or / a product?
So to me, that question implies that you're using those two things for different purposes. Is your website, my question for that person would be, is your main goal for your website to drive conversions, or are you using ClickFunnels for that? A website can be an awesome tool to drive conversions. It just depends on how you set it up. It can also be a really great partnership between a ClickFunnels and the website. It just depends on the purpose and how you're using each. Obviously, landing pages are a huge thing. People use landing pages a lot to drive conversions or signups or anything like that. And so, I would just make sure that if you're using one over the other, make sure that the purpose is not the same. So you're not competing against each other, and that you're using them for different reasons.
Okay, I think we have one time for one final question here. I'm going to go with this. What are the ways to make website forms kind of less intimidating and easier to fill out?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we see a lot is businesses want to try to find out too much information on the front end. And so instead of getting a form submission, they don't get anything. Somebody will fill out their name, their email, and then they'll get below and they'll be like, oh man, I can't answer all these questions. They get what we call form fatigue and they just leave. So the shorter the better. Figure out what is the minimum viable product. How little of information you need to get back in contact with that customer. The internet's not the secret to your sales. The secret to your sales, I would guess, would be your relationship building. If somebody's talking to you, they're going to be higher. They're going to be more likely to buy from you. The internet, your website, social media, these are just tools to get people to the place, to get them in front of you so that you can do what you do best, and that's help them solve their problem by purchasing the products and services from you.
Perfect. Well, I know we have more questions, but I think we're running out of time. So with that, I want to thank you again, Ryan, for your time. These types of webinars and the information you provide is great because it's different than what our area of expertise is. We're good at our financial services. We're good at helping clients with that kind of stuff, but we're not, some of us are, but I'll speak for myself. I'm not. We're not experts in kind of that optimization. And really, what you do is there to help us, have more people that we can, do our thing with. So really appreciate that. Again, appreciate everything Blue Compass has done for us. Like I said, they've got their information out there, and part of the agreement when we work with them to provide this information for you is they did agree that if you have some additional questions that are specific or maybe don't get answered, feel free to reach out to them. You can certainly ask us, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. So I want to make sure we get you to the experts. So also with that, if you have any annuity or insurance questions, you know where to get us. Call your sales team person. Would love to help you. Like I said, we appreciate your time today. Appreciate your business. Appreciate your loyalty and your partnership to us. Again, at the end, there's a survey. Please fill it out. Help us out a little bit as well. That goes a long way to help us provide information that you're looking for that can help you enhance your business. So with that, I'll say thank you, and we'll sign off and wish everybody a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.